This is Brian Young, Super Bowl champ, 49er. You're listening to Matt and Dexter on The Grueling Truth.
Welcome, everybody, to the 49ers Weekly Show on the Grueling Truth Radio Network, brought to you by Replenishing Technologies, the future of sports medicine. For more information, go to thegruelingtruth.net. I'm your host, Matt Andruscavage, and I'd like to welcome in my co-host, former 49ers running back, Super Bowl 29 champion, Dexter Carter.
Hey, Matt, it's great to be with you and have an opportunity to recap Week 1 and talk about Week 2, so looking forward to it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Week 1, it was the first couple of drives I had to, try to get myself calmed down. My heart's beating fast. I'm pacing. And then I finally calmed down and, was hoping it might go the other way. But, all in all, I saw some good things. But, that was, still a loss. It's no fun to watch a loss. But at least football's back, right?
Hey, football's back. And pretty much, we felt like Minnesota will be a difficult task, especially from the defensive perspective, and they proved just as we thought. They came strong on their defense and a very, very good defensive front that put pressure on the 49ers, on Garoppolo, and forced some turnovers. And at the end of the day, from a stat perspective, the stats were very, very close. Of course, we had 3 interceptions. They had 0. The turnovers makes a big difference. But the yardage, the rushing yards were pretty similar. The pass receiving yards were pretty similar. But when you have turnovers the way the 49ers did, then it's hard to overcome that when you're going against a great defense.
Yeah, it's kind of like what we talked about last week. Felt like the 49ers match up with the Vikings, but they will have to play a perfect or a near-perfect game. And 4 turnovers to 1, we felt that was the key to the game was, what are these 2 quarterbacks going to do when they get under pressure? Who's going to be able to take care of the football? And unfortunately, it was Garoppolo that had 3 interceptions. Alfred Morris had a fumble, and they only had their 1 fumble. So they were able to take care of the football, and that was probably the difference in the game.
No, that was definitely the difference, and you can't, go up against a good ball club and have those kind of turnovers, and especially whenever you have guys on that, and I keep mentioning it, that defensive front, boy, they are very, very good.
Oh yeah.
But when you lose 24-16, and with 4 turnovers, still that's not a blowout, and you can see areas in the ball game where the 49ers could have taken advantage of it and actually won this game. Because when you look at just some of the stats, you look at first downs. First downs are very, very crucial. 20-19 favored the 49ers.
Yeah.
That is very, very huge. And third down efficiency, 5 of 13, that's where they faltered at because the Vikings was 7 of 17. So that was very, very big. They were 10 plays only separated them in the whole game. 61 plays 49ers and 71, the Vikings. And total yards, 343 Vikings, 327 49ers. So when you look at that and look at the yards per play, 49ers were 5.4 compared to 4.8 for the Vikings. They statistically they played well enough to win. But then again, turnovers is the crushing blow. You cannot have that. Neither team, was that great, in the red zone. 50% isn't bad, 1 for 2, but then red zone, 1 for 4 to 49ers. Mm-hmm. The name of the game is score touchdowns in the red zone, and every drive that you have as an offensive unit ends in a kick, either an extra point, which you prefer, or a field goal. And the 49ers came out on the bottom end of that. So that area needs to be shored up on, improved on, and I'm sure it will be, because when you look at some of the areas that I spoke of earlier, they played well enough to win. if they didn't turn the ball over. So they're going to shore that up, and I don't see Garoppolo continuing to throw the interceptions at the rate that he did in this game. And something else that's interesting is Cousins played very, very well. You got to give him credit. He was well worth, Garoppolo was well worth what we gave him, but Cousins played very, very efficient. And I figured when teams got some film on Garoppolo over the course of time that they would defend him better. And he will play better regardless of the film that they have on him. But you and I was talking about it prior to the show, that it makes you appreciate guys like Brady and Rodgers. All the film that they got on these guys still come out and light it up. And that's what Garoppolo is going to be able to do in the future. He may be able to do it starting this next game. But, man, those two guys that I mentioned, boy, they turn it up regardless. And Garoppolo will be able to do that, too, as we move on in the future.
Well, that's just it. I mean, for everyone listening, I will say that, if you listen to this show for any amount of time, you know that I had a tendency to be okay with moral victories. And I think Dexter talked me out of that. So I don't really do the moral victory anymore, but I do find positives. But the bottom line is you never feel good about a loss. But you're absolutely right. I think when you compare the stats, when you compare efficiency, the 49ers were able to do a lot of things against this vaunted defense. And we'll kind of break that down in a little bit as well. But, yeah, it really comes down to turnovers. Kirk Cousins, I thought, really played within the framework of the game. He played within his limits. I didn't feel like he was really pushing things downfield, just kind of, trying to force things or anything like that. I thought he took what the defense gave him, and the times that he did take shots, he was accurate. And he took care of the football. And so, unfortunately for us, we had to watch, a couple of times where, Garoppolo was under some pretty good pressure. And, with a third-string right guard, that didn't help. And receivers were not doing him favors as well. So, there was a time where, the Vikings jumped out to that 10-0 lead. They were able to get a touchdown to, I believe it was Stephon Diggs. And, the corner, Kwan Williams, never turned around. Did you notice that a couple of times where the ball was in the air and the defenders were not really playing the ball? They were just kind of looking at the receiver, and they like, turn around, you can knock it down. And one time, I think the ball even hit him in the shoulder or the head.
Absolutely. And I don't know if that's a technique that they're taught, because when you see that consistently by more than one guy, they're taught that technique.
Right.
And I guess it works for some, but at the end of the day, when they watch film, I think they're going to change that up, or they should change it up a little bit, because you're right. Once you see the eyes or the hands of the receiver make a move, you've got to turn your head, and you've got to give yourself a chance to intercept the ball, and still be able to knock it down. You get the hand up, but get the eyes on the ball and be able to intercept it. And you're right, the 49ers didn't do that. So maybe they'll change, maybe they won't. But getting back to one point, one positive thing that the 49ers did, and this goes to show you, if you eliminate the turnovers, they win, because time of possession is very, very important. The more opportunities we have with the ball, the better chance I think the 49ers have a chance to win. And you're talking about 4 turnovers, and they still had the ball 28 minutes, 51 seconds compared to 31 minutes and 9 seconds for Minnesota. So they'd have had the ball way more. Maybe not, definitely more than Minnesota if they wouldn't have had those turnovers. So, you talk about it in Little League football, you talk about it in the NFL. Turnovers will kill you, and it will stymie, your ability to be successful over the course of a game and of the season if you continue having turnovers. But I'm sure that's going to be fixed. Kyle Shanahan's going to make sure that that's fixed very, very soon.
Oh, definitely. So, as I was watching the game, I think one of the things that I really got out of the game was I really felt like the scheme of Kyle Shanahan's scheme, the maturity of some of the players like tight end George Kittle, 5 catches, 90 yards. He looked really, really good. And I felt that there were a number of players that really helped the offense move the football against a really, really stingy defense. I didn't feel like the Niners were just completely stifled on offense. I thought they moved the ball rather well, especially when they got down. They were able to respond. George Kittle gets like a 40-yard gain. They drive all the way down the one, and then Alfred Morris fumbled the ball. I mean, that's points left on the board. And then Pierre Garçon, he's one of the best catch drop rates in the NFL, and to see him drop a touchdown was rather shocking. George Kittle completely beat Harrison Smith, who I think is the best safety in the game, down the sideline. He dropped the ball, and then the next play was the pick six. And then we saw Jimmy Garoppolo overthrow George Kittle in the end zone near the end, which could have made that a 24-20 game, which may have been even more interesting. So you see the missed points, the missed opportunities, the points left on the table that you can't have against a team like Minnesota. But the fact is they were able to move the ball. Minnesota they get that pick six. Now all of a sudden they're up 17-3. They go right back. Kyle Juszczyk gets a 56-yard gain, and they get right back down into scoring range. And so you can see, I think what's encouraging is you can see if they can move the ball like that against this kind of a defense, well, this gives me a lot of optimism going into the Detroit game.
Absolutely. And one thing that can be looked at positively for the 49ers is, one, Garoppolo hit, I believe, 7 different receivers. Let's see, 6 different receivers. And the average reception overall was 17.4 yards. That is huge.
Yeah, that's a lot of yards.
Oh, that is a lot of yards, man. And to have Kittle targeted 9 times and he gets 5 receptions, one position I think is so key. And you look back during the time that I played, and you with Brent Jones, Jamie Williams, and then you look at the Dallas Cowboys who had Jay Novacek, and then today you've got New England with their top tight end, and I believe tight end is a key position because you're going to hit your other wide receiver diva targets on the outside, but when you have the very first game of the season and your tight end gets targeted 9 times and catches 5 balls for 90 yards, I think that bodes well moving into the future because you got those safeties and linebackers that have to focus on the middle of that field and cover that area so the tight end will not catch the ball. But then I think it opens up other areas in that intermediate zone, the curl zone for these wide receivers to catch the ball. You mentioned something about there was an interception after a reception that should have been made. See, those are the things that kill you. It always comes back to bite you. You miss a play that you should have made, and then all of a sudden there's a turnover. Well, if you'd have made that play, most likely that turnover wouldn't have happened because it changes your play calling. It opens up. Your playbook opens up when you make the plays that you should. It changes, it just changes your play calling. So I think the 49ers moving forward, there's a lot of things when they watch film, they're going to be able to correct. So once those things are cleaned up, I think the 49ers are still the team that we expected them to be. We knew that it would be a difficult game to win going up against probably one of the top 5 teams in the league. 49ers have a lot to be proud of, and it's going to prepare them well going up against teams in their division like the Rams because they still have a chance to win their division. That's a key thing. You win your division and go in, maybe even get a bye in the playoffs. Now, will it be easy to beat these teams, in your division? No. But this is a great challenge that they stood up to, didn't win, but I think it prepares them well to realize the things that they got to fix, straighten out, and the plays that they got to make that they should have made in this game. And Garoppolo is definitely going to get better. So he's not going to throw 3 interceptions every game. They're going to be okay. They're going to be okay.
Yeah, and I think to me, really the turning point in the game was the George Kittle drop because I think that's probably a touchdown. And then the next play, Kendrick Bourne came out and said that he ran the wrong route. Now, Jimmy Garoppolo he actually assigned blame to himself in the press conference, but Kendrick Bourne,
leader.
Exactly. To me, that's important. But Kendrick Bourne said that he ran the wrong route, and then you could see that he slipped on the play, and then the ball got thrown. That was a pick six. So you can see where regardless of what actually happened, I'm sure Kendrick Bourne did run the wrong route, and that probably is the cause. But regardless of that play doesn't happen if George Kittle comes down with that ball, and
right.
He probably scores on that play. And then, the other interception, the second one, it didn't end up really affecting them because the Vikings went 3 and out right away, but it still kind of hurt because they never know what they could have done. But Xavier Rhodes just made an amazing play because it was one-handed off his left hand, bounced off his face mask back into his left hand. So it was kind of a fluky interception, but it was still an interception. So we're not making excuses here. We don't do that, right? But
right.
But I do want to point that out because I think some fans are being a little bit lazy with how they're looking at this game. They're just looking at the box score. They're seeing 15 for 31 and 3 interceptions. Yeah, it's true. Numbers don't lie, but the fact that they had all this stuff going on, the fact that they played the whole game without their fastest player, Marquise Goodwin, that changes the game because now Minnesota doesn't have to worry so much about the home run threat. They're playing with a third-string right guard. No Reuben Foster.
Right.
How different is that game if Reuben Foster's in that game? Because Brock Coyle just got beat repeatedly, and then we've got dropped touchdowns. The fact that all of that happened and they still hung in there, they still were able to drive downfield, and then that touchdown to Dante Pettis, was that not beautiful?
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. So though you mentioned about Reuben is going to make a difference. 49ers still have an opportunity to win. But when Reuben Foster comes, it's going to be a big, big-time difference. Now, Warner, I believe Warner had, he had double-digit tackles. So, he played first game, played very, very well, but everybody knows. Absolutely. But everybody knows who the alpha is. And when he gets back, it's going to be obvious who the alpha is. And he's going to be making big-time plays. So that's only going to add to the overall, ability of that defense. And I think it's going to make an overall difference, with this team because we're going to score more points as an offense. And when Foster comes back, I think it's going to stymie the points that the opposing team is able to get. So, it's only going to go up and get better from here. They had a great challenge the first game. Now they're going to move forward and shouldn't have a problem, being honest. If you look at the first week and the results of the Detroit Lions game, 49ers should move through this here second game pretty easily.
Yeah, and that's the thing. To me, what I take away from the first game, it was painful. It was tough to see them lose and to see the turnovers, but I saw a lot of growth on the team. I saw George Kittle come into his own. I thought DeForest Buckner showed a ton of growth, where he would kind of struggle at times to be able to break free from linemen. I mean, he had 2.5 sacks. He looks really good. I even saw pressure coming out of Eric Armstead, which was great. The defensive line, which was talked about all year in the media about being their biggest weakness with the pass rush, it didn't look too bad to me. I was glad to see that. Obviously you got mental mistakes. The Solomon Thomas play at the end was really tough to watch because everyone in the building, everyone around the country that was watching knew they were not going for that fourth down, and he jumped off sides. That happened. It's a mental error. Hopefully he can get that corrected. That was tough, but the fact that all of this happened with the guys that were out and they were still within one score and had a chance to tie that game and a chance to possibly win that game, despite all of the things that were against them, that's encouraging to me. That tells me that, like you said, this week against Detroit, who looked pretty bad on Monday night, they'll be coming off a short week, going all the way out to the West Coast, and I don't know. To me, I think the Niners match up really well. I don't think the Lions have near the defense that Minnesota does. Kyle Shanahan's offense should be rolling on Sunday.
Absolutely. Kyle's going to have a great offensive scheme, game plan for Detroit. And offense, again, didn't play terrible. They're going to correct those issues. They're going to have a great run-pass game, for the Lions, and they're going to be productive. So I don't see them going out there and laying an egg. This is a good game. This is a good game to get, into the win column, and they're going to play well.
Yeah, I think I want to turn a little attention to the secondary. There was one play where Stephon Diggs put a move on Richard Sherman. If you look at the play, Richard Sherman actually trips over his Diggs' right foot and stumbles just a tad, and Diggs was able to beat him. But that was the only play that when they targeted Sherman where there was a completion, he knocked down the other ones. I still think Richard Sherman's just fine. And that really bodes well in the future because, even this Sunday against Detroit, I think you could put Richard Sherman on Kenny Galladay, or you could put him on Marvin Jones Jr. Probably not Golden Tate because he's going to be in the slot. But I don't really see whoever Sherman is on getting a lot of even targets, much less completions. And then I thought Ahkello Witherspoon, he gave up the touchdown to Diggs. The coverage was there, but he didn't turn around, and Cousins really threw a perfect ball. If he turns around, I think he knocks it down. But that was early in the game. If you look at the rest of the game, Ahkello Witherspoon really didn't give up a lot either. I think he is going to be fine as well. So I look at the secondary, and they look pretty good to me.
Absolutely. And, we all know Richard Sherman is the top dog in that secondary. And one key thing is he played all 71 snaps in this game against Minnesota. And he looked pretty good. You got he was a bright spot of that defense. It was great seeing him, pretty much looking like he came back from that Achilles, surgery. And, as you said, he gave up that early 18-yard catch, on a double move. He tripped, but very successfully defended, other passes that came his way, which made Kirk Cousins not test him very much. And that's what we expect in the future with all these other quarterbacks. They're not going to test him very much because he's going to end up hurting them. So that, very, very, very bright spot, for the defense along with other areas. But Sherman really did an excellent job, played a lot better than I thought he did. Because if you take the preseason and some of the practice videos that we saw where he was getting beat, you made you think, oh, man, is he looking a little rusty? But I tell you what, the man put his cape on and came out there and played extremely well and made the league take notice that quarterbacks better not test me often because if you do, I'm coming up with the ball.
Yeah, I thought Richard Sherman played very well. You could see his leadership on the field. There was one play where I think it was Diggs put another double move on him and got a step on him, but a Cousins overthrew him, and Sherman's just talking. You could see his trash talking game was in mid-season form, and I liked it because it's good to see that now that's on our side. It was tough always to watch it in Seattle, but it's good to see it on our side. And I think it's his leadership. It's what he brings to the locker room, how he's able to mentor these young guys and help this secondary gel into a very cohesive unit. That's so encouraging.
It is very encouraging, and the team needs that. The team needs that. So everybody who's watching should be pretty excited about the direction the team is going and the production that is going to be made as we move forward.
Yeah. So we brought up Fred Warner. So I thought he impressed a lot as a linebacker. I thought he got a forced fumble on Dalvin Cook. He was everywhere the ball was. He was getting there. He was not missing tackles. When him and Reuben Foster are in there together, that's going to be a great tandem. And hopefully the pass rush can keep this up. So I see the defense improving. I really like this passing game, which will only open up the run game. So as we move into the Detroit preview a little bit more to wrap up the show, the Detroit Lions defense is not Minnesota. I just don't see how they're going to be able to stop all those receivers because Dante Pettis looked really good. When Marquise Goodwin is out there, that's a lot of speed. Pierre Garcon was able to make some plays. George Kittle's really tough to cover as a tight end, as we saw. I don't think the Lions are going to be able to stop this passing attack, which is only going to open up the running game.
Absolutely. What I saw in last week's game, it doesn't look like they're able to stop very much at all. But even with a good defense, Garoppolo and these receivers, including the tight end, if you eliminate, the drop passes, eliminate Garoppolo's uncharacteristic overthrows, the potential of this offense being efficient is off the charts. So it's going to be interesting to see what Kyle Shanahan does. We know he's going to try to get the running game going, get his play action going, but Garoppolo is going to get back to his normal throwing. The receivers, I believe, are going to continue to get better and better as time goes by. And this is a game that I think they're going to have monster numbers. Monster numbers.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're going to definitely have a receiver that's going over 100 yards. I think we're going to have quite a few big plays on Sunday. And hopefully we'll see some big plays out of the defense as well. I don't think it bodes very well for Detroit right now. Matt Stafford was banged up. I don't know if he's playing or it'll be him or Matt Castle, but I don't care really who it is. I think the 49ers defense is going to be able to get after whoever the quarterback is. Detroit has not really had a running game in like 5 or 6 years. That still rings true. I think they only had 40 yards rushing on Monday Night Football. I just don't think they're going to be able to run. And so now if they're not running very much, well, then you kind of know what's coming. You just kind of get your best pass rushers out there and go after the quarterback. And then, we got that secondary that we talked about that's probably not giving up a lot of plays. They'll probably have to scheme for Golden Tate, who's, he hurts a lot of teams because he's very shifty. He's got amazing quickness, and his hands are really good. So, he's probably going to get a few catches, but I don't see anybody else really making a big play, especially if you're not going to probably not targeting Richard Sherman. So that just, that can eliminate half the field. It's such an advantage to have a player like that. So it's very hard to see where Detroit has any kind of an advantage, and I'm not even sure that everything is going really well in the locker room. They seem to be having some trouble with the coach, and things just don't look very good for Detroit right now. So the Niners really have to take advantage of this and get back to 1-1 and start looking like the team that we know that they can be.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping, just from a football perspective, because I really like Detroit's quarterback.
Me too.
He's been good over the years, and I really hope that whatever injury he has, that it's not serious and it's not going to keep him out because, one, he's good for the league, and he's really played well enough to get Detroit in that winning, the winning thought process. So hopefully he's healthy this week, just so, in all fairness, it can be a competitive game, because I think from a running back perspective, I think they didn't run the ball that well last week to help him out at all. But when you got LeGarrette Blount, Kerryon Johnson in that backfield, I think it's only a matter of time that they're going to be productive. LeGarrette Blount's been productive everywhere he's gone. So they, new head coach over there, I just think he's got to figure out how he wants his team, what their identity is. And I think once they do that, I think they're going to obviously play much better than they did in this first game. I truly don't think that's the Detroit Lions of what they're capable of being. So hopefully they'll come out and play a competitive game. But even if they do, taking nothing away from them, but I just think the 49ers from a talent perspective, coaching-wise, all of that, they're pretty good. They're trying to get their first win, coming off of a very tough loss, and I think that they will get it done. And unfortunately, I think we're not big into predictions on this show, but I do believe that the 49ers will be 1-1 when this weekend is over.
Well, that's how you know that they impressed you. If you're coming out and making a prediction that they're going to win, they had to have done something impressive, because you're right. On this show, we don't do a lot of that. You're very careful not to step into that trap.
Absolutely, and I came out with that early in this show, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. I really, you look, Garrett Blount is still a good running back, and so you could see where if they could get into some kind of a rhythm. I'm just not sure. I guess I just don't know what kind of a team Detroit is, what their identity is right now under the new head coach. I, too, like Matt Stafford a lot. He's good for the league. He's fun to watch. I just don't really know what to make of Detroit right now. A lot of things seem to be more negative than positive, and I hope the Niners can take advantage of that and get this one. I, too, am going to predict a win. Not going to say by how much, but I really think the Niners are going to look impressive on Sunday.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, Garoppolo looked a little mortal this week, as we've already talked about. When you start 7-0 as a career starter before you lose, man, that's a big deal. But, again, I think his supporting cast will continue to rise to the occasion and help him out a little bit more than they did this week. So I think that's going to be huge. And when that happens, we've already talked about the optimistic and positive statistical category this past week. That category is even going to get better when his supporting cast steps up. Now, I believe the running game will get better. Kyle Shanahan, I think, will stick with the run, because that's a big deal in his offense. It would be great to see McKinnon, do his thing.
Yeah.
But Matt Breida and Morris, they've got to do their thing. They've got to protect that ball. And I know fumbles happen. I get it. We all have. Hey, if we play football and we carried the ball, we fumbled it. But at the end of the day, got to protect it. The more opportunities this team with their identity and with their talent and the play calling, the more opportunities you have with the ball in your hand, the more possessions you can have, time of possession and number of possessions, it betters your chances of winning. And when the 49ers can do that, man, there's not many people that are going to beat them, just being honest with the quarterback they've got and with the talent that they've, brought onto this team and developed onto this team. Things can look very, very optimistic if they just protect that ball. So from a running back position, that's going to be the key this week. One fumble is too many. You can't have it.
That's right. Yeah, I agree. You can't have the fumbles. I think they're going to get to be able to the Niners should be in a position to correct a lot of the mistakes that were made. It'd be interesting to see kind of what happens with the injury report. Goodwin is still day-to-day with a quad injury, a kind of like a bruised quad. It looks like he's going to play, and then it just really comes down to what's going to happen at right guard, because Person, I believe he's got some kind of a leg injury. I know that Josh Garnett has dislocated toe, so we'll see what happens with both those guys. Hopefully one of them can suit up. But really, other than that, injuries are pretty clean. We should see Malcolm Smith hopefully come back at linebacker. That should help. And then, after this week, Reuben Foster comes back week 3, so that'll be really good. So, signs are pointing upward, and, hopefully they can get a win this week, and I think we'll all feel a lot better being 1-1 rather than 0-2.
Absolutely. I agree with everything that you just said. We'll see, this weekend how things unfold. And, again, I'm optimistic. I'm not the one, as we said, number of times even tonight. We're not going to do our predictions, but we will say that we believe that the 49ers will be 1-1 after this here game. And it's nothing against Detroit, because I really hope that, they can get back, healthy and be competitive. But unfortunately, they're going to have to wait and do that in week 3 or after that, because they're not going to do it this week.
That's right. I'll be right there with you after week 2. I want them to get healthy and competitive starting in week 3.
That's right.
So that's kind of where we're at with things. I think we can take a lot of good things away from the Viking game. Tough loss, no excuses, but going forward, I think they can learn a lot from that game, grow a lot from that game, and play well on Sunday. So we'll definitely see how that goes. So everybody give that game a watch, and hopefully things will go as we talked, and we'll come back next week and discuss it. So want to thank everybody for listening. Please go out to thegruelingtruth.net for articles, podcasts, everything that you like as far as football, boxing, whatever you enjoy. We got podcasts all over the place for that. You can get all your 49er content as well there. So thanks very much for listening to our podcast today. So for Dexter Carter, I'm Matt Andruscavage. You've been listening to the 49er Weekly Show on the Grueling Truth Radio Network, where the legends speak.